Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, every now and then a star is born. Every now and then a random guy, just a regular Joe, shows up out of nowhere and hits the nail on the head so dead on straight, so hard, with such precision and such force, that he's just doing it better than pretty much everyone out there. We have all these talking heads and all these so-called experts, all these freaking media shills and media bots who are supposed to be the authority on the issue. I mean, on YouTube, there's a literal policy to promote these types of clowns as authoritative sources while censoring the rest of us. Channels like mine are baseline shadow banned. I mean, it's YouTube policy. Authoritative sources, they tell us, those are the people that you should be listening to, that you should be believing. But then right back to the initial point of this intro, some regular Joe comes out and does a better job than the entire mainstream media apparatus as a whole, in a 3-minute riff that breaks the internet. Let me show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. It's as relevant as ever. After the firing of Tucker Carlson, let's take a look at what this absolute Chad had to say. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright friends, so without further ado, and really without any needed extra context, take a look at this viral clip that's now getting millions of views across Twitter and other platforms.
I'm looking for the one with Seymour Hersh because it's a policy and press hall event. So shouldn't we be talking about the Nord Stream since that's the biggest story of the century? And you guys, you have the executive editor of the New York Times there who came out with a phony story to try and block Seymour Hersh. It's just kind of funny how that happened, I mean, did you even acknowledge Seymour Hersh? All of you are executive editors of papers that broke Pentagon, My Lai, Watergate. Is this the same papers or not? I mean, is there anything you've gotten right in the last 20 years, or am I mistaken about that? I mean, it's just kind of funny because Iraq, wrong. Syria, wrong. Russiagate, really wrong. Okay, I mean, the list goes on and on. So the last thing you could do to try and actually fix your reputation is acknowledge that through leaks, we had to find out that Zelensky was going to bomb Moscow on the anniversary. I mean, if you're so impartial, shouldn't you at least say, right, that Zelensky was going to bring us on the verge of World War III? That seems pretty fair. While Julian Assange rots in prison, all of you got, fat checks because he's in jail for doing your job. And you know what? Tucker Carlson ain't no Seymour Hersh, but he did something you guys are scared to do. Speak the truth and actually be critical of the war, which is why he was actually fired from Fox, because you are all cowards. Every single one of you. None of you have actually had any relevancy. And you know what? The mainstream press is now dying. Nobody's ever going to listen to you again. You have no credibility with the public. The only people who care about what you have to say are elite who have nothing productive to say anymore. And it's dying off. So will you at least say something, either about Nord Stream or Ukraine or the fact that Zelensky brought us to the verge of World War III and the only reason we knew about that was through leaks? Go ahead. It's a free speech event, right? You guys are the press. Let's say something here. Mr. Khan, come on. You're the executive editor of the New York Times, I'm just trying to get into some good trouble here, man. Ooh, listen, Karen, get out of my face for a second. I got to talk to these gentlemen. Okay. Well, I just want to hear what they have to say. Go ahead. I'm done.
Wait your turn. Wait your turn.
You're not going to tell to you. Come.
Wait your turn.
You could project if we can't.
I think it's important to hear everybody's point of view.
Yeah.
So thank you.
All right.
I do think that we need to give our moderator a chance to ask other questions.
We're on the verge of World War III. Say something about this bombing. We blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Listen, don't stand there while there are people rotting in prison. Nobody said anything about Uhuru, right? The socialists who are in jail for being critical of this war. God.
You know what Tucker said in his address to the people the other day? How there's all of these debates and these discussions in the mainstream media and really nothing of importance or relevance is really said. No important truths are discussed. Most of the panels and discussions are fundamentally useless wastes of time. This right here is the perfect example. You have a bunch of legacy media losers, there's no other way to say it, doing a New York Times event on democracy and policy, but none of them are contributing anything. It's the same tired talking points and tired conversation over and over again, the same approved talking points of why free speech is bad and a threat to democracy, probably some other nonsense like that, and why Donald Trump must be stomped. And just a regular citizen who stands up and decides to take the stage, decides to speak the truth, ends up providing more value than the entire machine. And it's actually funny because I keep calling him a regular Joe. He responded in the comments, identifying himself as Jose Vega, a self-proclaimed journalist and individual from Bronx, New York. Kind of close enough. Maybe not a regular Joe, but a regular Jose. By the way, drop his video a like and definitely follow his Twitter account. But getting into the basic details here, he hit the nail on the head. Every single point that he referenced. You know, it's like I always mention, we're covering these massive bombshells on this channel all the time. And I always end up saying something along the lines of, all right, well, here's the biggest bombshell, one of the biggest scandals of our lifetime. A story that, by the way, the mainstream media isn't even talking about. The biggest stories of our lifetime, like the bombing of the Nord Stream, which we still haven't gotten to the bottom of, many revelations involving Ukraine, Zelensky, and the war machine that's backing it, Russiagate, the Bidens, the list goes on and on and on. Mainstream media refuses to even talk about these topics. In fact, when you bring it up, like our friend Jose did, they all seem to shrivel up in their chairs. Just look at them. What is their purpose? They put on this facade of being so important, such important contributors to American society, Western society, democracy, the importance of journalism and the work that we do. They all have this incredibly righteous persona, but they're all a bunch of cowards. A perfect example is Julian Assange, one of the most persecuted persons of the modern age. Governments and special interests want to shut him down, want to destroy him. For doing what exactly? For doing investigative journalism, for uncovering uncomfortable truths. A man who's been persecuted, arrested, treated absolutely horribly, most likely currently being treated inhumanely for the terrible act, for this horrible act of journalism. He and WikiLeaks really crossed the line when they exposed Hillary Clinton and her crew ahead of the 2016 election. He went too far. He crossed a line that he shouldn't have. And so the powers that be decided to persecute him. You would expect his first defenders to be journalists working in the media, but of course, they don't speak a word. Their silence tells you all that you need to know. Their silence on the Hunter Biden laptop story tells you all that you need to know. Their general lack of curiosity when it comes to any scandal involving globalist entities, Democrat politicians, or federal agencies. For Pete's sakes, the former White House stenographer has come out publicly accusing Joe Biden of being a criminal, claiming that he is willing to testify against the Biden crime family. Then you have a former CIA official, Mike Morell, pointing the finger directly at Anthony Blinken as being the organizer of the infamous Hunter Biden laptop Russian disinformation letter. That to me seems like probably the biggest story from the last couple of weeks, and it's frickin' crickets. Let's think about the implication. Anthony Blinken used his connection and possibly used funds to promote a fake news story which the fake news media then parroted to protect Joe Biden and help him get elected. That seems like it should be some sort of campaign finance violation, or just a campaign violation. Maybe there's not finances involved, yet the mainstream media is focused on what? An NDA and hush money payment to Stormy Daniels, which occurred before Donald Trump's campaign even started, was a personal expenditure the FEC dropped, claiming it wasn't a federal finance campaign violation. That's what the media is focused on, and these people pretend to be the good guys. This is why we need independent media. This is why we need the legacy media to completely collapse. Not lose popularity, die down slightly. Total, utter collapse. The system is not redeemable. A few oligarchs who get to control the narrative, who get to decide what people are allowed to talk about, what information is approved to be disseminated to the masses. Frankly, we need more people like this guy. We need more people like Jose Vega, who are willing to actually question official narratives, not these media hacks who constantly, and I mean constantly, get it wrong. And obviously they get it wrong on purpose. They come to their conclusion before actually investigating. Donald Trump was guilty before any evidence or any investigation. The conclusion was that he was guilty. Now, how do we get to that conclusion is essentially how that went. Ukraine fired missiles that landed in Poland and took the lives of 2 civilians. Whether it was an accident or not, we don't really know, but they were Ukrainian missiles, and the media already came to the conclusion that it was a Russian escalation, and World War III was on our doorstep. It's gotta stop. We've seen enough damage, enough bloodshed. The mainstream media as a whole is not a redeemable institution, and I think we have the evidence to back up that statement. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you on the next one.